Welcome back, everyone. We're just outside Blood Rose today, and we're going to go in and do a couple of attempts. Now, I've run these tests many times with each of the setups, and it pretty much performs the same every single time. We go and use the cooldowns, and I will do this in the exact same way every time, waiting for the Vengeance cooldown to expire, at least the buff that is, and we'll see right when it ends that this boss has just under 6 million life. 5 point something, close to 6, but it is in fact under 6 million. I get between that and about 5.3 million. This really just kind of depends on crits and so forth, but this is what I get for the best output every single time. What's interesting about this is I have two 2-star gems equipped. You'll see here that my resonance is about 5,300. I've got a Fervent Fang, and even more interesting, I've got a rank 8 Bloody Reach. This isn't even rank 10, which means it's also missing some of the bonuses from the gem resonance inside if you're able to get these. So this is the Fervent Fang. And we've got some of these additional bonuses that I'm actually missing. That's because this is only rank 8. So let's go ahead and kill the mob that's attacking me. And we're going to swap out this Bloody Reach. Again, this has a lot of room for improvement. We could have rank 10 Bloody Reach. We could have gems inside increasing the resonance. We could have those bonus effects. I'm going to go ahead and put my Blessing of the Worthy, which is what I normally have in this slot. And I'm going to fully deck that out. So we're going to add in a rank 10 Hunger, a rank 10 Followers, a rank 10 Battle Guard, a rank 5 Blood Soak, a rank 5 Seeping Bile, soon to be 6, but a rank 5. And I will get some additional bonuses here. These are all defensive bonuses, so this actually isn't going to increase the output, but 1,160 resonance, putting me up to 6,240. This is almost a 1,000 resonance increase. We're going to go back to the same spot, top my health off, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the abilities in the same exact manner. My positioning doesn't matter because I've removed the Bloody Reach, but I'll go to roughly the same spot. We'll go in, we'll fire, and again, waiting for this Vengeance buff duration to end. And as it ends, just under 6 million. So that is actually on the better side for the test I have for this. Usually I get between about 5.8 million and about 6.2, and this setup is actually fairly consistent. A little more consistent than the Bloody Reach, and that probably has to do with my proximity to the boss not being perfect every time. But you'll see, actually performs slightly worse, and this is with almost 1,000 more resonance. Now, I'm going to do one more thing, and that's ditch off of this Fervent Fang. Now I'm going to put in another rank 10 gem. In this case, I'm going to put Chip of the Stone Flesh because I have better gems to go in the interior, and that's going to increase my resonance higher than that Phoenix Ashes I have. So we'll load this out real quick. And there's the reason I basically get the higher resonance is because I'm able to put that rank 10 Phoenix in that I no longer use, and if they ever add a gem slot, I'll be ready to go. So now I'm up to 7,100 resonance. This is about 1,800 resonance more than I did the original test with. We'll go back in again. Once again, abilities will be used in the same order. And we'll fire away. And as this expires, we are at almost 7 million, actually slightly below. And that's actually on the poor side of what I've had for testing. This particular setup seems to get between about 6.5 million and 7 million for me personally. However, it is the worst performing of all the versions. I'm going to head over to the armory while we kind of continue to talk. So what we know here, and like I said, I have run this at least 10 times with every setup, and the consistency is always the same. The Bloody Reach and Fervent Fang outperform the two other gems, which in my case are Chip of the Stone Flesh and Blessing of the Worthy. Now, obviously, these are different style gems where Bloody Reach and Fervent Fang are offensive style. Blessing of the Worthy is a defensive gem. Chip of the Stone Flesh is kind of a support gem, and I don't have a way to proc that on the boss. But you get the general idea, and I've had a ton of feedback about this. People saying, oh, 2 stars will never be better than 5 stars. Well, it's kind of proving that wrong right here. And even if it's not 100% better, you could argue with PvP that you're obviously getting much more health from the 5 stars, having overall higher resonance. But in general, I think I've kind of solidified this point here that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. 2 stars are incredibly competitive in comparison to 5 stars at this point, and there's absolutely really no reason, in my opinion, unless you're just a die-hard PvPer, to even invest in a 5-star gem at this point. You could just go full on 2 stars and basically be just as successful as a 5-star. Again, with the way the matchmaking works, you might even have an increased chance of more enjoyable lobbies and things of that nature in PvP. And in PvE, since your overall health doesn't really matter, the biggest disadvantage you're going to have with the 2 stars versus 5 stars is that you're going to have lower combat rating because the gem itself has additional combat rating. So I'm going to activate my typical loadout, and there's just been some lag in the armory lately, and Battlegrounds crashes and Vault crashes, and I could probably go on longer and longer. So while we're here and talking about single target damage, since it's been brought up, we may as well also cover things like raid builds. Also a pretty strong dungeon build, tell you the truth. Now, I've been pretty open that I do not have Scornbeak. I still do not have it, and I'm not sure if I would change the build, tell you the truth. I really like the escape for mobility, much quicker than Daring Swing, and you can reactivate it and reactivate that gloom buff. I'd have to do some additional testing with the Daring Swing because the Scornbeak adds such a long duration to your attack speed increase. It may in fact be better, but at the moment, I'm going to show a build that doesn't use that, and the reason for that is because Scornbeak is difficult to find. It's been elusive for me and many others. It only drops on Hell 8, so not everybody has it yet, and if you're trying to build up and have something functional until you get it, there's some pretty good options. So as you see, I'm using Escape, Vengeance, Knockback Shot, and Impale. And what we're doing here is we are running one of the newer helms, and that is False Manifesto. And it's going to increase your primary attack speed by 30 seconds after using, by 30% for 6.4 seconds. This is a really long buff duration, okay? So you've got this, you've got the 4-piece Vithus, so you're essentially buffing yourself, getting increased attack speed. Knockback Shot, you just click it and it's active. You don't have to aim, anything like that. Very simple. For shoulders, we're using the Live Bait, and that's going to allow your escape essentially to be targeted and move you forward, just giving you some mobility. This is how you're going to proc your gloom. For chest piece, we're using the Duplicitous Prophetics. That should be down the bottom here. This is also going to cause basically a buff to your knockback shot, and really the biggest benefit of this, you don't need the knockback effect in PvE per se, but what you're really going for is the Essence Mastery effect, which is just an 18% damage increase. Now with pants, there's 2 options here, and while I was testing things against Blood Rose and the gems, I actually went back and forth and did tests with each of these items. One was Ruinous Path, and the other is Koff's Unrelenting Fury, and there's always been kind of a debate between which one do you use. Well, at this point, Koff's Unrelenting Fury has actually been better for me in all of my tests, and I think that there's something to be said for that. It has to do with the other essences. If we look at False Manifesto, we look at Duplicitous Prophetics, all these things are increasing our attack speed. The faster our attack speed is, the more benefit we're going to get from Koff's Unrelenting Fury, because every 2 primary attacks will cause 1 additional rocket, and there is no cap to this. So the faster we attack, the more rockets that go off, as opposed to, say, just the flat buff from Ruinous Path. Now, these 2, when I tested them, were very close, but overall, the average damage for me and my character at my strength was about 200k, or 0.2 million better with Koff's Unrelenting Fury. Now, this is going to vary depending on your attack speed. I have attack speed reforged on all my pieces. That's also a factor. So kind of keep these in mind. But overall, the general point I'm trying to make between these 2 pants is if you're looking for options, you don't have all the essences, either one is good. In fact, they're very close. Not a huge deal breaker. For main hand, I am using the Excavator. That allows me to put Impale on. This is again going to do some additional damage with the Essence Mastery. Reason I like this is because this will also proc our Vithus, and we'll show that when we're kind of done with the last essence as well. And for the offhand, another one of the newer ones is Theory of Retribution, and this is going to deal additional damage whenever it hits the same enemy 3 times. And also this damage gets a massive buff from the Essence Mastery. So, similar to Koff's Unrelenting Fury, when we strike the enemy 3 times, which means the faster we attack, the more of these procs we're going to get. So this whole build is synergizing around attack speed, and that's why I don't love Daring Swing in this build, because you have to obviously stop attacking to then swing over the enemy. It's a little clunky. It can be a little bit slower, whereas Escape will also proc the Gloom and get you firing much quicker. go back if you need to relocate because of an enemy ability. It's just a lot nicer and more convenient in my opinion. So we talked a little bit about 4-piece Vithus, obviously using the 2-piece Gloom with this. And what we can do with this build is essentially have 100% uptime on the Vithus. If we're firing away, we can activate Knockback Shot. We can activate Impale as the Vithus starts to run off. And then as that goes down, we can activate Vengeance. As that starts to go down, we can then activate Knockback Shot again. And I think you're starting to get the point, because I can then go back and do Impale again. And at this point, if I'm not going to quite make it with the knockback, I can always do a dash, get some rocket again. So you can keep yourself buff 100% of the time without fail, even if you're moving, because you can use the escape to tumble your way forward, reposition, and stay buff. So this very, very simple to play. Hit your buttons, basically do more damage. Another great thing about this, as players and warbands, if it's a raid setting, gets stronger and stronger, or even dungeon bosses as your kill speed gets faster and faster. Well, if you're doing something like Namari and there's some time between all the bosses, you don't need to rotate your abilities like that. You could just be firing away, wait for that boss to spawn or become active, hit everything at once, and basically just nuke the boss. And all these cooldowns, since they're relatively short, with the longest one being Vengeance, around 16 seconds, a little bit more if you don't have all the cooldown reduction, and everything's going to come back up for the next boss. Very, very good. Same thing applies in raids. If you have a boss that goes invulnerable, like a lot of the raid bosses do at certain points, you can burst the damage down or spread things out depending on your individual raid or warband clear time, and adjust that as time goes on and you guys get stronger. Maybe you're not able to burst them down in the window where all these abilities are active, so you rotate a couple, and then as time goes on and you get stronger, you can then nuke them and put them all together. So very, very good setup. Versatile in terms of whether it can burst or sustain. Overall, I just love it. I will also show a build using Scornbeak if I'm able to acquire it before I change classes. I'm not going to stick around forever on Demon Hunter. I just wanted to cover this class, and I've made a mistake before of lingering for essences and taking weeks to get them. So if I'm unable to get it, I will cover the build by having a friend of mine essentially show the gameplay and get me copies of the loadout and so forth. So as always, feel free to leave some feedback or comments. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Hope this build works well for you. Like I said, works good in raids, also works well in dungeons because you do have some mobility to keep up with the group. Other than that, have a great day.